Some common problems with this Echo RB60 revolve around three things. Number one, the agitator not being large enough to sweep the bottom of the hopper. Number two, the side deflector for our side spread control seems to fall down on its own. And number three, the support legs on the bottom seem to be a bit too long, dragging through my turf, leaving ruts in my lawn. Let's modify this baby out and stick around to the very end for a bonus tip. Hey guys and gals, welcome to Garage Gear. I'm JB. Let's fix this Echo's errors, shall we? Okay, so let's have a look at this agitator. It's just too small. It only covers about half of the width of each of the drop holes. This really creates a problem getting your product out. I think the overall design is fine. It's just an issue of length. Echo, we won't tell your girlfriends about your problems. We promise. Side note, I've seen some guys putting longer tubes on the end of these to lengthen them out. Bad idea. Don't do that, because adding extra length here with a wide tube going out too far creates too much friction when you start piling on all the fertilizer and all the granules inside this hopper. It actually makes it really tough for this agitator to spin. So what we need here is something that's really the same shape, but a little bit longer. Take a look at this. This is a 3D printed agitator designed specifically for the RB60. If we match it up, you can see that it's just a little bit longer, and if we stick it on the center, it's going to cover up our drop holes. This agitator was sent to me by my friend Dustin over at Mirror Image Coating on Instagram. This one adds a little bit more length and it's a little bit more robust. Dustin informed me that it was printed on a Marked Forge Mark II printer using onyx filament so it won't be affected by chemicals. So that's pretty cool, and I'll have Dustin's contact information linked down below in the description in case you want to pick one of these up for your RB60. And as of the making of this video, they're shipped anywhere in the US for 20 bucks. All right, so you see these tabs right here? These are holding that smaller agitator in place. What we gotta do is lube them up and pull this whole thing out. Now I was told you could use something like Dawn soap and just kind of lube it up and it should be able to come out nice and easy, but I have some WD-40 here with an extension wand that'll get in there easily. Let's give it a quick shot. Spin it around this side. Cool. Okay, now word on the street is I should be able to take my fingers like this, fork my fingers, and pull it right out. It's probably gonna take a good pull. Let's see. Almost. Got it. Not bad. There you go. There's your old agitator. All right, let's do a quick agitator comparison here. Look at these things. Boom. We can already see we got some added length and some width. How about that? Oh, Echo, the ladies will love you. All right, let's just spray this one down really quick and pop it in. That should do. There is a hexagon shape inside, and there is a hexagon shape to the shaft right here. So let's try to line it up as best we can. Pop her on. Boy. Wow, that was easy. Take a look at that. That clears those holes so much better. And it seems to ride a little bit lower too. Before I could easily stick my whole finger right underneath this thing. This one, as I stick my finger underneath, it bumps right into it. So that's pretty cool. It's about half the height from what it used to be. I'm liking this a lot better already. Awesome. Mod number one, complete. And to help complete this video with the YouTube algorithm, would you mind hitting that like button? Thank you. Now mod number two is this falling side deflector. We seem to have a problem right here with this little metal bulge that sticks out, and for some they're complaining that it just gets loose over time and the flap falls. Let's adjust this and see if we can bring it forward just a little bit. I think what we need to do is bring this little metal flap out about another 1/8 of an inch, and that should do. There's a bolt underneath here. Let's pull that out. I have a T27 star bit for the screw here up on the top and a 10mm socket for the bottom. All right, so let's loosen this thing up and get this guy out. There we go. So this little metal piece right here is basically what's running the whole show. And you can see that we have one hole here at the bottom. My thought process is, what if we carve this out right here and make a slot for this instead of one hole? Something kind of like this, and just get rid of all that. That way we have an adjustable slot now that we can push this whole thing forward and create that extra bulge that we might need. Let's pay Mr. Wilton a visit here. We're gonna stick this in on the edge just like that, just to hold it in place. Then what I'm gonna do from here is take my Dremel and carve some metal out. Here we go. That doesn't look too bad for a garage operation. So now instead of right here in that hole, what we can do is push it forward and bring it to about here. That'll give this metal piece a little bit more bulge. Notice it's got to go up and slide into this slot on this side. And the hard part's going to be pulling it outward a little bit while you're trying to tighten this whole thing down. So you almost need a third hand. Now if I take this wannabe screwdriver here and stick it in the slot from this side, what I can actually do is I can pull it out a little bit, slide it down. That'll kind of hold it in place. And then from here, I can just tighten it down. Good. And we'll just take this guy out. All right, let's flip this guy up and check it out. Okay, that seems to have a bit more pop to it. And you can really see this metal prong just kind of sticking its way and moving up and down into this slot up here. Yeah, that holds a lot better now. That stays up there tight. Stays down, stays up. Problem solved. Mod number 2, complete. All right, now on to mod number 3. Now, I'm 5'9", and these hind legs on this spreader like to drag in the turf if I don't hold it up like this as I'm spreading out my fertilizer. The problem is they're just a bit too long. They actually rutted up my turf pretty good before because they were dragging through the grass, and I was like, why is this spreader moving so slow? And I looked down and I had 2 good ruts going across my lawn. So how do we fix this? Well, we're gonna have to cut them down a little bit. And as of right now, this spreader measures about 31.5 inches from the ground at the top of the handlebars. Now, I don't want to take off much. I just want to take off a little bit on each one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take off about 1/2 inch, and I'm going to start there. I don't want to take off too much and have this spreader sitting entirely too low to the ground. So we'll start with 1/2 inch and go from there and see how it sits. I'm gonna mark this one too. Now you may not be able to see it so well. There is a fine line about 1/2 inch up from the bottom. I really gotta get my hands on a silver Sharpie. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a thin metal screwdriver and we're just gonna jam it underneath here. We're just gonna pop out these little end caps. And there we go. That's what they look like. Let's get this one out over here too. Boom. I'm just gonna slide some cardboard down underneath the front end so I don't scratch up the bucket. Now you could use a Dremel or maybe a grinder to hack each of these bottom ends off, but if you don't have that, you can reach for a trusty hacksaw. Time to cut these off. And there we go, off she comes. Now let's do the other one here. And there we go. Clean cut, 1/2 inch off. Not too shabby. Looking pretty good. All right, now before we go any further, let's lean it back and check our height. Okay, that's not bad. About 29.5 inches from the ground. So we lowered it about 2 inches. And when I lift it up, what do I get? Better clearance. So now to finish this up, what I'm gonna do is just lightly sand these and then give them a quick shot of some black glossy spray paint to cover them up so they don't rust. Then I'll just pop the plugs back in and we'll be good to go. Good enough for garage work right there. And now you get a much better idea of what taking off just 1/2 inch can do. We lowered the whole unit about 2 inches all the way up at the top here. I'm gonna leave it at that. We're gonna see how it does out in the yard. Now all 3 mods are fully complete, so if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's go test this spreader out. Now, in case you're wondering what I'm throwing down, I'm slinging some Yard Mastery Stress Blend, which is perfect for my lawn here in the summertime when the lawn is stressed out from all the heat and minimal rain. It has a low dose of nitrogen, so we're not pushing the top growth, but loads of potassium to help strengthen the turf overall. Okay, so how did all these mods do? The agitator inside the hopper did a much better job getting all the product out down through the drop holes. One thing to note about this agitator is that because of the added length, I did notice right out of the gate that it was a little bit more difficult to push the unit. I did load the unit up with 35 pounds of product, and all that additional weight bearing down on it did create that added resistance. So if you are going to get one of these agitators, just know you might have to lighten your load in order to push the unit a little bit more easily. I also noticed that because of the better agitator, I didn't have to do the bump and grind so much because it was getting all the product out. The side deflector for the side spread control did a much better job as well, staying in position and not falling down at all. And for a third win here, the rear legs didn't catch the turf at all, and I was actually able to be a little bit more relaxed with my holding position, so I didn't have to hold it up so high like this. Win, win, win all around. Now Echo, I hope you're listening. I have never done this much work to a spreader before, and shouldn't have to do all these things to a brand new spreader. Isn't this where the R&D department would step in? Nope. The accountants. Now I know another question that's just bound to pop up, and it's gonna be, won't that void the warranty? Maybe, but you gotta ask yourself, what's better? Adding a slightly longer agitator or slamming and bouncing that unit on the ground repeatedly to get all the product out? Cutting the legs does change the design a bit, but it still performs the same, if not better. Here's the deal, if you don't wanna wait 5 years for the warranty to run up, go for it, make the modifications, but do so at your own risk. I'm happy with all these mods. The unit throws better, it cleans out the bottom of the hopper better, and I'm not catching the grass as I go. Now here's a bonus tip I mentioned earlier in the video. Let's tip this spreader back on its face. One other problem that people seem to find with this spreader is this spreader setting control dial. They mentioned that it gets really loose and falls out of its place as you hit some bumps, which they're not exactly wrong because this does slide pretty easily. For me, mine actually holds pretty well here. I don't see much of an issue with this on my end, but if you're having a problem, here's what you could do. Grab a bungee cord. If we look up underneath here, you have this slot, and this hook will fit perfectly right up inside there. From here, let's say you wanna lock it into 5, what you could do is hook it, and then come around the T shape of the handlebars, and then hook it onto this bar. Right now, that guy's staying put. It's not coming out of place. And if I want to move it, I just unhook it, slide it over to maybe 8.5, hook it there, and it doesn't move. It stays put. Pretty simple fix. It's not the prettiest, but it works. Hey, it's the best we can do on this wannabe Halloween candy bowl. Now, if you're interested in checking out the full review I did on this Echo RB60 and a comparison between this spreader and a comparable Earthway spreader, I'll have those videos linked down below in the description. For more cool garage gear content, click or tap the screen right here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the garage.